Right, so this is probably going to be one of the first videos on my channel, and I wanted to start off by just providing as much value as I can. If people are interested in a program to follow, if you don't follow a routine at the moment, if you don't have a program, or you've created one yourself and you're not confident that it's actually going to give you results, this is something that I'm giving people access for free. If you do want access to this, all that you need to do is just to follow the link in my bio. You'll be taken to my Instagram page where you can DM me and ask for it. All that I need from you is your email address, and I will just share this with you. It's through Notion. You don't need to have Notion downloaded or have an account set up with Notion, but if you want to duplicate it and make it yours, then you might need to do that. Before we go on, my name is John. I work with mainly men to develop their best physique possible, and I do this online through my own app. Now, what I'm going to do in this video is just go through all the different programs that I've given you access to. There are 5 different programs depending on how many days per week you have to allocate towards them. And first of all, what I want to do is just go into a bit more detail about why and how you should select each program based on different variables that might affect you. So, first of all, is the 2 day a week program. This is a really good option for someone who doesn't have very much time to allocate to training each week. I really don't think this is a good option if you have more time than 2 days, but if you're limited on time, then this is fine and you'll get a very good physique from doing this. It's also good for people that are very new to the gym and don't need a lot of volume to actually grow. But if you're able to allocate more days, I would probably start off with the 3 day per week program. 90% of people will be fine and get really good results from the 3, 4, and 5 days per week programs. But the 2 day a week program is here if you really don't have the time. One of the drawbacks of this particular program is that there is no calf training in here. There is no bicep training in here. There are things that have been left out deliberately. However, with the exercise that I've selected, you should get a very well-rounded physique if you were to train this and do it consistently over a long period of time. So moving on to the 3 day a week program, this is going to be a full body split over 3 days. Again, I've programmed in all of the rest days. You need to pay attention to this. If you don't take the rest days, you're unlikely to be able to recover. And like I say, the 3 day a week, 4 day a week, and 5 day a week programs are going to be perfect for most people. The more days that you allocate to the gym, it's likely that you're going to make more progress by doing that. That said, there is one caveat. If you wanted to do the 6 day a week program and maybe even the 5 day a week program, you really need to make sure that your recovery is optimized. Okay. If you are drinking alcohol, even one time per week, if you are unable to get 7 hours of sleep minimum, if you have a baby and you're being kept awake at night, if you have a very stressful job, if you have a very physical job, the 5 and 6 day a week programs are probably not right for you, especially not the 6 day per week program. With the 6 day per week program, you're going to be training some muscle groups 3 times per week. So you have to make sure that your recovery is as optimized as it can be. If you're not confident that you're able to recover between sessions and eat enough food, then it's probably not going to be right for you. That's the other thing. If you're cutting, again, I wouldn't recommend the 6 day per week program. However, if your recovery is optimized, you've got a good diet, you've got good sleep, and preferably if you're bulking or maintaining your body weight and you're eating enough food, the 6 day per week program is what I run, and I'm confident that that will give you the most amount of muscle growth that you can possibly get in the shortest space of time. And I'm going to go through how I've structured things in a bit. So another thing to draw your attention to is that I have left many of these exercises fairly ambiguous. The reason for doing that is because when I work with my own clients, I'm able to sit down with them, I'm able to find out what machines they have in their gym. I'm able to find out what exercises they get on well with and what they like and what they dislike. Unfortunately, I don't have this opportunity to do that with you. So I've left the exercises fairly ambiguous to give you the opportunity to choose an exercise that you like doing and that you get on well with. So for example, let's choose shoulder press as an example. There are plenty of different variations that you can choose for shoulder press. My favorite variation would be the barbell overhead press. But if you didn't have a barbell, if you're training from home and you don't have a barbell, or if your gym doesn't have that piece of equipment, you're going to be limited to specific variations. Um, there are so many different types of shoulder press. You just need to pick one variation that works for you, and then run that consistently for the 8 weeks that are listed in this program. Again, lateral raises, there are so many different variations. My favorite will just be using dumbbells, but if you prefer to use cables, that's absolutely fine. Um, I've programmed in things like pull-ups. Again, many people aren't able to even do pull-ups. In my opinion, pull-ups are going to be the best exercise for growing your lats and just overall back development. But if you can't do pull-ups, then another good option is assisted pull-ups, lat pull-downs, machine pull-downs. Whatever you want to do, it doesn't really matter. The key thing is, and this is really important to remember, once you pick a variation that you get on well with, you must train it consistently for at least, in my opinion, at least 6 weeks to actually make progress with that exercise. The program runs for 8 weeks, and then there is a deload, and then you run the next block of training and you switch the variations up. If you're not getting on well with that variation by the end of the 8 week program, then you can change it. If you've made really good progress and you really like it, then you can keep it in. It's up to you. Again, there's only so much that I can do in terms of coaching from this distance. If you were my client, I would be able to tell you all of this stuff anyway, and you wouldn't really have to put any thought into it. Something else to draw your attention to, especially with these longer programs where you're training more days in the week, I have left the number of exercises per day quite minimal. There are only 4 exercises for a lot of the leg days and 5 exercises for the upper days. If you are able to, and if you want to, you can add exercises. It doesn't really matter. But what is here is fine. You will grow a very well-rounded physique from training just these exercises the way that I have listed them. Now, if you are newer to training, you are probably not going to need to train that many exercises or that many days per week. I don't want people to come onto this program who have never trained before and think that training 6 days a week is the best thing for them, and then start adding 2 or 3 exercises at the end of the day. It's probably not going to be right for you. You need to acclimatize to that amount of training. And the best way for you to do that is by doing it over many, many months. If you're currently training 3 times a week and you switch programs to a 6 day per week program, you cannot expect your body to just immediately acclimatize to that amount of volume. You have to do these things gradually. In my opinion, if you're on a 3 day a week program right now, I would continue to run that for at least 8 weeks. Then I might switch you to a 4 day a week program, run that for 8 weeks, see how you get on, see how your fatigue level is, move up to a 5 day a week program, run that for 8 weeks, and just see how you get on. The likelihood is most people don't need to be training 6 days per week. Most people probably don't even need to be training 5 days per week. This is really only for people who really like training or who are more advanced and have the ability to actually recover from that training week in, week out. Another reason why I have kept the number of exercises per day quite minimal is because I want people to prioritize rest periods. In my opinion, rest periods are absolutely king. If you're able to rest for 2 to 3 minutes between sets, then that is brilliant. I honestly believe that if you were to choose fewer exercises, but make sure that those rest periods were as long as you could make them, and then bring all of the intensity that you have to those individual sets, and you take those sets really close to failure, you'll probably need 2 to 3 minutes anyway to recover and get the most out of those sets. One other thing to draw your attention to is that there is very little bicep work in this program. If you're doing pull-ups and heavy rows, there is really no need to be doing any more volume for your biceps. But of course, if it is a lagging body part, you're more than welcome to add bicep curls to the end of your programs. Because this program is something that I've designed myself, I have my own biases. There are specific muscle groups that I like to place emphasis on. These are muscle groups that, in my opinion, have the biggest visual impact. Those are, in my opinion, triceps, shoulders, lats, quads, and glutes. So there is an emphasis on those 6 muscle groups. If, for example, you wanted to grow your chest specifically, it might be worth modifying some of these exercises. Now, I don't recommend that people modify the exercises just because you're getting further and further away from what, in my opinion, is a very well-rounded program in and of itself. But a good example of this is if you wanted to switch an exercise like dips, which are going to emphasize your triceps, to something like barbell bench press, then that is something that you can do. If you do want to make modifications to this, I recommend that you do it very gradually and very slowly and one exercise at a time. So one of the last things to go through is just how to actually progress with this program. It's pretty simple. The way that I like to structure my programs for myself and for my clients is by structuring my training into blocks. So there is an 8-week block here. If by week 6 you feel that your fatigue is getting way too high, you're getting too tired in your workouts, you're not motivated by the exercises, you're not getting very good pumps anymore, you're not sleeping very well, your appetite is starting to go down, these are all really good indicators that you might need to take a deload. And you can take a deload any time that you want. In my opinion, if you're getting really fatigued by week 3, week 4, it might be that you're doing too many days and you're on the wrong program. That's a really good indicator of that. If you're getting to week 7 or week 8 and you're feeling like fatigue is starting to build up, that's fine. Take a deload. I can go into what a deload is and how to program a deload on another video. But for the most part, you should be fine with this 8-week structure. I think for the vast majority of people, that will be fine. After you take that deload, you can keep the same structure, but you can start to think about changing which variations you're performing. If, for example, you are doing barbell overhead shoulder press and you're finding that you're just not really getting on with it, you've not really progressed with the weights very much, you're not getting very good pumps anymore, maybe you've got joint pain that it just doesn't feel good anymore, you're more than welcome, and I think it's probably quite a good idea at that point to then change that for something different. You could start using dumbbells, you could start using a machine if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. In my opinion, if you are able to progress over the 8-week period in weight and in strength, and then change variations to something different, change that variation for something different after that, once you come back to the original variation that you picked initially, you should be stronger, you should be better equipped to make progress with that exercise again, and it should feel brand new. Over the course of the 8 weeks, you may want to add sets to different exercises, especially for the 4, 5, and 6 day a week programs. The sets are actually variable. So a good example of this is Romanian deadlifts here. You are doing between 3 and 5 sets. In your first week, you shouldn't be doing more than 3 sets. I would pick the minimum amount of sets that you can get away with and run that. If at week 2 or week 3, you feel like you can add a set to that, you're more than welcome to do that. I would only add 1 set per session per week. So just to give you an example of that, if you're training RDLs, Romanian deadlifts, in this very first week, you'll be doing 3 sets of between 6 and 8 reps. If in week 2 or week 3, you feel like you can add a set to that, you can still do your initial 3 sets of 6 to 8, but your last set, that 4th set, will be taken up to the 10 rep range. So you might be doing, as an example, 3 sets of 6 and then 1 set of 10. And then by week 6 or week 7, you might want to add another set. Now you're doing 5 sets of RDLs. Those last 2 sets should be taken closer to the 10 rep range. You don't want to be doing 5 sets of 6 to 8. What I'd rather you do is 3 sets of 6 to 8 and then 2 back off sets, which might take you up to the 10 rep range. And then when it comes to just progressing in general, the main thing to bear in mind is that when you go into the gym, I want you just to have that mindset. What can you do that you didn't do the previous week? If you've set a PR the previous week, let's say you did 3 sets of 10 with hamstring curls on day 5, see if you can do 3 sets of 11 or 3 sets of 12. Generally speaking, what you want to do is work within the prescribed rep ranges. So if you've done hamstring curls, 3 sets of 10 in week 1. You might be doing 3 sets of 14 in week 3 or week 4. Once you get to 3 sets of 14, you can then increase the weight and then bump the rep ranges down back to 10 and then continue to work up. That's a really good way to progress. It's not the only way to progress, but in my opinion, that's the simplest way to progress for the vast majority of people. And that pretty much concludes everything about this program. If you have any questions about it, you can message me on Instagram and I'll reply to that. Again, if you want access to this, all you need to do is just follow the link in the description. You'll be taken to my Instagram page. You can DM me whatever you like. It doesn't matter. I will respond to you and I can give you access to this program. If you like it, then please do feel free to write me a review. I'd really appreciate that. Give the video a like if you found this useful. And yeah, have a wonderful day.